Fort Bragg, North Carolina, June 1971. A Green Beret hand-to-hand combat instructor, 6 feet 2 inches, 220 pounds, 15 years Special Forces experience, looks at Bruce Lee and says, "Civilians can't handle real combat training. You teach demonstrations, we teach survival." Bruce sets down his water bottle. Want to demonstrate the difference? What happens in the next 10 seconds doesn't just put the instructor on his back, it makes him say, "I need to learn what you know," and leads to Bruce teaching classified hand-to-hand combat techniques to Green Berets for the next 2 years. And it starts with 12 Special Forces soldiers watching. But first, you need to understand Master Sergeant Carl Matthews. Fort Bragg, North Carolina. June 12, 1971. Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Special Forces Training Facility, classified area, high security, not open to public. This was where America's elite warriors trained. Green Berets, Delta Force operators, the best of the best. Master Sergeant Carl Matthews, 38 years old, 6 feet 2 inches, 220 pounds, 15 years in Special Forces, 3 tours Vietnam, 2 tours classified locations, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, Silver Star, combat veteran, real warrior, not sport fighter, not tournament champion, soldier. He was the hand-to-hand combat instructor for Green Beret training. Taught close quarters combat, knife fighting, weapon retention, survival techniques, the kind of fighting that kept soldiers alive when everything went wrong. When guns jammed, when ammunition ran out, when it was just you and the enemy. Close, personal, lethal. Matthews had killed in hand-to-hand combat 3 times. Confirmed. In jungle, in village, even in situations where it was kill or be killed. He didn't teach theory, he taught survival, he taught what worked when your life depended on it. His methods were brutal, effective, simple, eye gouges, throat strikes, groin attacks, joint breaks, no rules, no honor, just survival. His students learned fast or washed out, no middle ground. Today was different. Special guest, civilian martial arts instructor, recommended by a colonel who'd seen him demonstrate. Colonel wanted Matthews to observe, see if there was anything useful, anything applicable to military training. Matthews was skeptical. Civilians taught sport, taught demonstrations, taught techniques that looked good but didn't work when someone was trying to kill you. He'd seen too many martial artists who couldn't handle real combat stress, real violence, real chaos. Bruce Lee arrived at 9 a.m., escorted by the colonel. Simple clothes, black pants, dark shirt, small bag, no entourage, no cameras, just him. Matthews met them at the training facility entrance. Sized Bruce up immediately, small, maybe 5 feet 7 inches, maybe 145 pounds. Lean, but civilian lean, not military lean. Looked like he'd never carried a rucksack, never humped through jungle, never felt real combat stress. "Mr. Lee," Matthews said, professional, respectful, but skeptical. "Colonel Reynolds says you have unique approach to combat training." Bruce shook his hand. Firm grip. "I teach practical self-defense, efficient techniques, economy of motion." "Sport fighting?" "No. Street fighting, survival situations, similar to what you teach, different methods." Matthews nodded. "Colonel wants me to observe your demonstration. We see if there's anything applicable to Special Forces training." "I'm honored, but I'd prefer not to demonstrate to an audience. I'd prefer to work with you directly, one-on-one. You test my techniques, I test yours. We both learn." Matthews raised an eyebrow. "You want to spar with me? Hand to hand?" "Yes. Controlled, safe, but realistic. You use your techniques. I use mine. We see what works." "Mr. Lee, with respect, I've trained 15 years in combat systems. I've used these techniques in real combat. Against enemy soldiers, I've killed men hand to hand. This isn't sport. This isn't demonstration. This is survival. Bruce stayed calm. I understand. That's why I want to test against someone with real experience. Someone who knows what works under pressure. That's you. Matthews looked at Colonel Reynolds, and the colonel nodded. It's Mr. Lee's request. He knows the risks. All right, Matthews said. We'll do this, but I need witnesses for safety, for documentation. I'll bring 12 of my students, Green Berets. They observe. They intervene if needed. Agreed. Agreed. What Matthews didn't know would change his entire teaching. They moved to a private training area. Padded floor, high ceiling, isolated. The 12 Green Beret students arrived, all combat veterans, all special forces qualified, all trained by Matthews personally. Matthews addressed them. Gentlemen, this is Bruce Lee, civilian martial arts instructor. He's requested to test techniques against military hand-to-hand combat. This is training exercise, controlled environment. You observe. You intervene if anyone's in danger. Clear? Clear. A master sergeant. Matthews turned to Bruce. Rules. We spar hand-to-hand. No weapons, no eye gouges, no groin strikes, no throat strikes. Otherwise, everything goes. First person to submit or be unable to continue loses. You good with that? Yes, but can we modify one rule? What? Instead of fighting to submission, we fight to control. First person to establish dominant control position wins. Less risk of injury, same test of effectiveness. Matthews considered. Smart modification, reduced injury risk, still tested skill. Agreed. Dominant control position. I'll know it when I see it. They faced each other. Matthews in military combative stance. Low, grounded, hands up, ready for anything. This was the stance that had kept him alive in 3 combat tours. Bruce stood naturally, relaxed, weight centered, hands loose, in no obvious stance, no telegraphed position. The 12 Green Berets watched silently. Most expected this to be quick. Matthews outweighed the civilian by 75 pounds, had 6 inches reach advantage, had real combat experience. This would be educational, for the civilian. Ready? Matthews asked. A term ready? Engage. What happened in the next 10 seconds shocked 12 Green Berets. Seconds 1 to 3. Matthews moved first. Combat approach, closed distance, went for clinch. Control the body, use size advantage, use weight, use strength. Basic military combatives, simple, effective, proven. He reached for Bruce's shoulders. Going to pull him in. Control his posture, take him down. Bruce's hands moved, intercepted Matthews' wrists. Mid-reach, light touch. But the control was immediate. Matthews' hands couldn't advance and couldn't grab. Stuck in midair. Matthews applied more force, more strength, pulled harder. 220 pounds of military muscle. Bruce's hands stayed connected. Light touch. But Matthews' hands weren't moving forward. Pressure points. Specific locations on the wrists. Disrupting nerve signals. Weakening grip strength before the grip even formed. Seconds 4 to 6. Matthews changed tactics. Pulled back, reset, tried different approach, jab, fast punch, test reaction time, test defenses. Bruce's head moved, 3 inches offline. The jab missed, clean miss. Matthews reset, threw cross, committed punch, more power. Bruce slipped it, minimal movement, just enough. Made the punch miss by millimeters. Matthews threw combination, jab cross hook. Military boxing, basic, effective, overwhelming pressure. Bruce moved through the combination like smoke. Slipping, evading, never blocking, never stopping the punches with force, just not being where they were. Seconds 7 to 10. Matthews committed fully now. Tackled, full body. Use all 220 pounds, drive the smaller man to the ground. Ground fighting where size matters most. He drove forward, low. Good technique. Arms wrapping, going for double-leg takedown. Military combatives fundamental. Bruce's base didn't break. His structure stayed solid. His hips dropped. His weight sank. Immovable. How? 145 pounds shouldn't stop 220-pound tackle. Then Bruce did something unexpected. Stepped sideways. Small step. Precise angle. Matthews' tackle hit nothing but air. His momentum carried him forward. Off balance. Overcommitted. Bruce's hands touched Matthews' shoulders. Light pressure. He used specific angle, combined with Matthews' own momentum. Matthews went down, forward, on his chest, arms extended, Bruce's knee on his back. Light pressure, controlling position, dominant control. 10 seconds, from engagement to controlled position. The 12 Green Berets stood silent, processing. They'd just watched Master Sergeant Matthews, 15 years Special Forces, real combat veteran, get controlled in 10 seconds by a 145-pound civilian. Bruce released the position, stood up, offered his hand to Matthews. Matthews lay there for a moment, on his chest, not hurt, not injured, just processing. Everything he'd tried, every technique that had worked in combat, every method that had kept him alive. Nothing worked, nothing connected, nothing controlled. He took Bruce's hand, let him pull him up, stood facing him. He's 6 feet 2 inches, looking down at 5 feet 7 inches. But the size difference felt different now, less significant. Again, Matthews said. They reset. Same start, different result. Matthews tried different techniques, different approaches, different strategies. 8 seconds, same outcome. Bruce in dominant control position. Again, third attempt. Matthews used pure military combatives, aggressive, overwhelming, combat intensity. 9 seconds, controlled. Fourth attempt. Matthews used grappling, wrestling, ground techniques. 11 seconds, controlled. Fifth attempt. Matthews used everything, mixed techniques, adaptation, improvisation. 10 seconds, controlled. 5 attempts, 5 dominant control positions, all in favor of the 145-pound civilian martial artist. Matthews stood breathing heavily, not from exertion, from confusion, from the realization that 15 years of combat training had just been neutralized, 5 times, by someone who'd never been in military combat. The 12 Green Berets remained silent, watching, learning, seeing their instructor, their mentor, their combat survival teacher, unable to control a civilian half his size. Matthews looked at Bruce, direct eye contact. How? Different principles. You use size, strength, aggression, overwhelming pressure. These work against similar approaches. Against someone your size or smaller who fights the same way, but against someone who understands your patterns, your commitment, your momentum. Those same strengths become predictable. Everything I tried, every technique, 15 years, 3 combat tours, nothing worked. Not nothing. Your techniques are excellent, your training is solid, and your experience is real. But it's designed for specific contexts. Military combat, battlefield situations, multiple opponents, weapons, chaos. In that context, overwhelming aggression must work, but in controlled one-on-one without weapons, different principles apply. Matthews was quiet, processing. Then, will you teach me, teach us, what you know? Bruce looked at the 12 Green Berets, all watching, all waiting. That's not my decision, that's Colonel Reynolds' decision. This is military facility, military training. I'm civilian. Colonel Reynolds, who'd been observing silently, stepped forward. Mr. Lee, I'd like to offer you a contract. Consulting contract, teach our special forces hand-to-hand combat. Monthly visits, classified instruction. You'd be teaching America's elite warriors. Interested? Bruce considered. What would you want me to teach? What you just demonstrated. Principles, techniques, methods, whatever gives our soldiers advantage in hand-to-hand combat. Whatever keeps them alive when everything else fails. I don't teach military tactics, I teach martial arts, self-defense. The applications are different. Then teach us how to adapt your martial arts to military applications. We'll figure out the tactics, you teach the principles. Bruce looked at Matthews. Sergeant, you comfortable with this, me teaching your soldiers? Matthews didn't hesitate. Sir, 10 seconds ago I thought I knew hand-to-hand combat. Now I know I have blind spots, big blind spots. If you can show me, show my soldiers how to eliminate those blind spots. That makes us better warriors, better survivors. I'm comfortable with that. Bruce agreed. For the next 2 years, he visited Fort Bragg monthly. 2-day sessions, classified instruction, teaching Green Berets, teaching Special Forces candidates, teaching instructors. He taught principles, economy of motion, interception, pressure points, timing, distance control, redirection, adaptation. The same principles that had controlled Matthews in 10 seconds. Matthews became Bruce's first military student. His assistant helped demonstrate, helped translate Bruce's civilian martial arts into military applications, helped integrate the techniques into Special Forces training curriculum. The training was classified. No cameras, no documentation beyond basic notes. Just training. Just learning. Just making soldiers better at staying alive. And Matthews later said, Bruce Lee taught me that combat experience isn't the same as combat expertise. I had experience, 3 tours, real fights, real kills. But Bruce had expertise, understanding, principles. He showed me I could be better. We all could be better. That's what great teachers do. When Bruce died in 1973, Matthews attended the funeral, wore his dress uniform, stood at attention, saluted. He made me a better soldier, made all of us better soldiers. That's legacy. June 1971, Fort Bragg, a training facility, 12 Green Beret witnesses, 10 seconds that changed military hand-to-hand combat training. The lesson isn't that Bruce Lee was better than Master Sergeant Matthews. Different contexts, different purposes, different applications. The lesson is about humility and learning. Matthews had 15 years' experience, 3 combat tours, real kills in hand-to-hand combat. He had every reason to be confident, every reason to believe his methods were complete, but when confronted with evidence that his understanding was incomplete, he didn't make excuses, didn't blame, didn't deny. He asked to learn. That's character, that's real strength, the ability to say, I don't know everything, teach me. The 12 Green Berets learned too. Learned that rank doesn't equal knowledge, experience doesn't equal expertise. Combat veterans can still learn, should still learn, must still learn, because survival depends on constant improvement. Bruce showed that civilian martial arts had military applications, that sport techniques could enhance combat techniques, that different systems could complement each other, not replace. Complement. He had 2 years of monthly training, hundreds of Special Forces soldiers taught, principles integrated into curriculum. Bruce's teaching became part of how America trains its elite warriors. That's impact. That's legacy. 10 seconds changed one instructor's perspective. 2 years changed an institution's approach. That's the difference between demonstration and teaching, between proving superiority and sharing knowledge. Bruce Lee said, absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is uniquely your own. June 1971. Master Sergeant Matthews absorbed what was useful from Bruce, discarded his assumption that civilians couldn't teach military combat, added Bruce's principles to his own combat experience, became better instructor, better warrior, better soldier. 10 seconds humbled a combat veteran. Not broke him, humbled him. You showed him he could improve. That's gift, not defeat. Gift. The opportunity to become better than you were. 12 Green Berets witnessed, learned, understood their instructor, their mentor, their combat hero. Showed them true strength, not never losing, but learning from every encounter, growing from every challenge. The techniques Bruce taught remain classified, but the lesson is public. Experience is valuable. Expertise requires constant learning. Combat veterans have wisdom. But wisdom grows through humility, through openness, through the willingness to say, teach me. 10 seconds, 5 controlled positions, 1 instructor's humility, 2 years of teaching, 1 legacy in classified special forces training, all because Matthews chose learning over ego. Be like water, my friend.